Welcome to AudiVation. Today we will discuss a different kind of book, The Gifts of Imperfection, written by Brené Brown. Let me start with a story about a journey. Not a physical one, but a journey into the heart of what it means to be human, messy, flawed, and beautifully imperfect. Brené Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection, is a map for that journey. It's not about fixing yourself or becoming someone else or achieving perfection. It's about embracing who you are exactly as you are. And trust me, it's one of the most freeing and powerful things you can do. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you weren't enough? Not smart enough? Not successful enough? Not attractive enough? It's like this quiet voice that whispers in the background of your mind, chipping away at your confidence. Brené Brown knows that voice all too well. She's a researcher, a storyteller, and someone who's been there. In her words, owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing we'll ever do. The book begins with a powerful idea. We live in a culture of scarcity. We wake up thinking, I didn't get enough sleep, go through the day thinking, I don't have enough time, and go to bed thinking, I didn't do enough today. It's exhausting. But what if we flipped the script? What if, instead of focusing on what we lack, we celebrated what we have? Brown calls this wholehearted living, and it's the foundation of the book. Wholehearted living is about engaging with life from a place of worthiness. It's about waking up in the morning and saying, no matter what gets done and how it goes, I am enough. It sounds simple, but it's revolutionary. Because when you believe you're enough, you stop hustling for approval. You stop trying to earn your worth through achievements or appearances or other people's opinions. I remember reading this and feeling a lump in my throat. How many times had I tied my self-worth to my productivity? How often had I thought, if I could just achieve this, then I'd be happy. But happiness isn't something you achieve, it's something you practice. Brown says, perfectionism is a hustle. It's the belief that if we do everything perfectly, we can avoid the pain of judgment or shame. But here's the thing. Perfectionism doesn't protect you. It isolates you. It's a shield that keeps you from being seen, truly seen. One of the most touching parts of the book is when Brown talks about vulnerability. She describes it as the birthplace of love, joy, creativity, and belonging. And yet, we avoid it like the plague. We're taught to hide our vulnerabilities, to toughen up, to never let anyone see our cracks. But Brown flips the narrative. Vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage. It's not weakness, it's strength. I remember a moment when I decided to be vulnerable. I had been struggling with something deeply personal, and instead of hiding it, I opened up to a friend. My voice was shaky, my hands were trembling, but I shared. And you know what happened? They didn't judge me, they listened, they empathized. And in that moment, I felt lighter. It's like Brown says, what makes us vulnerable makes us beautiful. Another powerful idea in the book is about cultivating gratitude. Brown writes, practicing gratitude invites joy into our lives. Notice she says practicing, not just feeling grateful, but actively practicing it. I started a simple ritual. Every night I write down 3 things I'm grateful for. Some days it's big things, like a promotion or a meaningful conversation. Other days, it's small, like the warmth of my morning coffee or the sound of rain. But over time, this practice has shifted my perspective. It's made me more present, more aware of the goodness around me. Gratitude isn't just about noticing the good things, it's about leaning into them. I remember one evening when I was walking home from work. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over everything. And for the first time in weeks, I just stopped. I breathed in the cool air, watched the light dance through the trees, and felt an overwhelming sense of peace. That's the power of gratitude. It grounds you in the beauty of the present moment. And then there's the idea of letting go. Letting go of what people think. Letting go of the need to compare. Letting go of who you think you're supposed to be so you can embrace who you are. This one hit me hard. How many times have I compared my life to someone else's highlight reel on social media? How often have I twisted myself into knots trying to meet someone else's expectations? But Brown reminds us, authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. I want to share a personal story. There was a time when I was terrified of being judged. I'd hide parts of myself, present a version of me that I thought people would approve of. But it was exhausting and lonely. One day, I decided to show up as I was. Messy, imperfect, real. It was scary, but something amazing happened. I started to attract people who truly valued me for me. And the people who didn't? Well, they weren't my people. And that was okay. Brown also talks about the importance of creativity. She says, unused creativity is not benign. It metastasizes. It turns into grief, rage, judgment, sorrow, shame. Think about that. How often do we suppress our creativity because we're afraid of being judged? But creativity isn't about being perfect. It's about expressing yourself. Whether it's painting, writing, gardening, cooking, whatever brings you joy, do it. Not for anyone else, but for you. One of my favorite lessons from the book is about play. Yes, play. As adults, we often dismiss play as frivolous. But Brown reminds us that play is essential to our well-being. It's a way to recharge, to connect, to let go of stress. I started incorporating play into my life, playing board games with friends, dancing around my living room, even trying out a silly hobby. And you know what? It brought a lightness to my days that I hadn't felt in years. By the end of the book, you realize that the gifts of imperfection isn't just a title, it's a truth. Our imperfections aren't flaws to be hidden, they're gifts to be embraced. They make us human, they make us real. And when we stop trying to be perfect, we open ourselves up to connection, to love, to joy. I'll never forget a moment from last year. I was sitting with my family during a chaotic holiday dinner. There were burnt rolls, spilled drinks, and mismatched plates. It was far from picture perfect, but it was perfect in its own way. Laughter filled the room, stories were shared, and love was palpable. That's what this book teaches, to find beauty in the imperfection. So let me leave you with this. You are enough. Right here, right now, exactly as you are. It's not about fixing yourself, it's about coming home to yourself. As Brené Brown says, no matter what gets done and how much is left undone, I am enough. Let's live that truth. Let's embrace our imperfections. Let's be wholehearted. Together. Stay well, my friend.